You're okay.
Thank you, Sharon. Good afternoon, everybody. It is Wednesday, 24 May 2023, and this is a regular meeting of the Waterville Valley Select Board. I'm the chair, Rich Rita, and here today also is Vice Chair Bob Freeze and Select Board Member Wendy Rathberg. We have a quorum. So I'd like to take a motion to move into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so I suspect some of the folks here are here for the public hearing on the warrant article for the special town meeting on 8 June at 6 p.m. at the elementary school gymnasium. Just the one warrant. And let me just open it up to see if anyone has any comments.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The last phrase, I don't have it in front of me, the last phrase says federal holidays and observed federal holidays or something.
Yes, and any observed federal
Can
holiday.
you explain what the difference is?
Sure, some holidays, it depends on the year, but some holidays are observed on the different day than the actual holiday itself, as far as closures are concerned.
So for example.
Actually, I looked it
July
up.
4th,
Um,
observing July 4th on July 1st.
Well, I think July,
That would be a bad example, but.
yeah, but
you
say
said-
July 4th's on a Tuesday. I mean, I'm trying to get this right.
But I mean, if
Hold on
I
a
take
second.
that as a bad example, that would mean that both of those would be there.
Well, a good one coming up is this November's Veterans Day. So I believe November 11th is
I can look it up.
on the same day.
Saturday.
It's on November 11th on a Saturday, but the observed day will be Friday, the 10th.
So based upon the way it's written, this would apply to both November 10th and 11th.
Yes.
Okay.
So some years there are none, some years there are one, some years there are
I just
two,
want to understand.
and some years there are three. It's just the way the calendar works.
Some years there are three.
I believe so. Yeah, I looked at three observed, 3 days. No, three total of the 11 holidays on some years. 3 of those have observed days. Just because they fall like on a Saturday or Sunday. So they take the Friday or the Monday. Mhm.
Take on what some of the folks who brought up amendments at the town meeting. Was not to get rid of holidays, but not to add additional days where they could not have construction activity if they needed to. For example, if Veterans Day was on a Saturday, to not add and the observed federal holiday to days they could not have construction activity. So not to have Friday and Saturday, 2 days where they could not have construction activity. They would prefer just to have the Veterans Day, Saturday, the one day where they can have construction activity. I don't think from my recollection at the town meeting, I don't think anyone was asking to reduce the number of holidays that you could not have construction activities. It was more to not add to what we already had and also to list them. Even if it included all of them, so that it was clear to everyone what those were.
I think you're wrong. I think that, let's say, Martin Luther King Day. We don't celebrate it on his actual birthday.
Right.
We celebrate it on that Monday that's closest. Same with President's Day. So I think you're wrong. I think I think to Mike's question, I think it's or. I think it should be or.
My issue was, I think the way it is written is unclear.
Yeah, I do too.
I like, in my old age, I like specificity.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I think
Alright.
it should be or. I think it's the and.
think it should
that
be or.
people were objecting to.
Okay, I think. Okay, there are two things going on here. I think there are two different questions we're looking at. But first, let me just go back to the definition, right? We're not talking about construction activity. we're
Well,
talking
that was
about,
the concern that people brought up.
Right.
About this.
and we do it as well in a shorthanded way. We conflate construction activity with unreasonable amount of noise, which is really what we're trying to regulate. So you can't have construction activity 24/7, 365, as long as it's not considered unreasonable noise. An unreasonable amount of noise. I'm trying to be very precise here because this is where it gets kind of tricky for some people. That is in the ear of the listener. Right? There's no objective, there's no level. We don't have people going around with whatever the meter's called for sound level. So just to make sure everyone for the record understands, I think that's something we have to make clear. I came away with a different interpretation. As I recall it, I think it was Tim who stood up and made the case to have the unreasonable noise standard not apply to all holidays. It wasn't a question of observed or not observed. And I believe it was Craig Larson who also spoke to that they would like to see, because at that time, all 11 federal holidays, the unreasonable noise standard applied to all 11 federal holidays.
Right, but the original warrant article was to add observed federal holidays to that, and my take was they were that already they were limited, they didn't want additional days. That they.
Okay,
would be
I
limited to.
didn't hear it that way. I think it was actually, and they instructed us to list those holidays.
But
On
the
which,
instruction was to list, not to reduce from what we had necessarily.
I remember it being reduced.
I think ideally that's what they wanted, but in the end, what they said was just list them so that it's clear.
And-
The other way around.
and
I
pick.
just watched it this week. So I
And what was it, was to reduce?
it was to list. And then it got amended to remove Sundays. So the first amendment was just a list. The second amendment was I work Sundays, Claire Hoffman, I work Sundays.
Mhm.
Why are we limiting Sundays? Those were the two amendments.
Well, what people wanted at that meeting is neither here nor there, I guess, because now we have a new
Well,
wording
then
to.
I wanna question this, so. I was not at the meeting, I heard back, so I was at the beginning of the meeting left, but I watched it, I watched it again. And I think my take on this is people were trying to change the ruling. While the warrant article was to take a ordinance that we already had and make a small tweak to it. It
correct,
seemed to me that what they voted on was changing the ordinance completely.
yeah, those two
Taking
paragraphs,
Sundays
right,
out of the equation,
right.
and I have to ask the question as to what is the purpose of this ordinance? If it's to make it more comfortable for our visiting residents, Sunday's meaningless. By noon Sunday, they're all gone. Saturday is the day that would be the important day. If it's not for the visitors, if it's for the people, the residents, well, I worked from home for the last 12 years here. And the midweek noise is way bigger than the weekend noise. People coming around with leaf blowers and lawnmowers constantly. That's an annoyance to the people that are full-time residents here that want some peace and quiet during midweek. The weekends, I'll tell you from a working person, the weekends I'm never home. The weekend's my time to go shopping, to go hiking, to go do whatever it is. So whatever noise happens doesn't impact the people that live here and they're working in the weekends. So I think that's was the take, is that this ordinance being an older ordinance, I think the town wanted to change it.
We got a lot of feedback from people that they didn't think Sunday should be excluded.
But it was voted on.
I know it. But now we're gonna have a chance to vote on it again.
So
And there were a lot.
So then I'm gonna ask this question, are we gonna keep, so if it loses again, we're gonna keep trying to find another
No.
pure time where we only get 10 people that are in favor of keeping Sundays and disenfranchising the people that can't be here?
No, I don't think that's the intent at all.
I know,
But
I'm being facetious.
No,
It was voted after
but-
11 o'clock at night.
Exactly, and so many people left.
Sure.
Or
Or got a
couldn't
little
do that.
hijacked by a couple of lapses, and that's my take on it, having watched it and then watched it again like yourself. And I also had to leave early and I couldn't be there, and I don't think the ordinance was explained fully, as Rich just did, that it you can do construction 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year, as long as you're not bothering your neighbors with the noise. And I think that was missed, and people, that's why Claire was like, well, why can't you work on Sundays? I work on Sunday. But you can work on Sunday, you just can't, but and living next to one of the construction sites. It's really bad. Speaking.
Well,
from-
so I talked to Ken Ackley, who is in. I mean, he is in ground zero. He's got 2 big condos being built and 2 houses being built all around him. Since March, not a single person has showed up on Sunday.
Mhm.
They've had the ability to show up on Sunday,
Mhm.
not a single person has showed up on Sunday.
Mhm. And on Saturdays too, I think there's some, yeah, I
So
think
then why
that's
don't we
some,
just reaffirm that.
Can I just add though, so I live in village condos, Sunnyside was working from 7 AM until after 9. 5 to 6 days a week. By the end of that, every day, my head was absolutely buzzing from the buzzsaws. I was so thankful to have that they went home. So I think it's necessary that the town at least puts something in place, that at least one day a week, we are given a break. Even if you're hiking or whatever, I'm telling you, my brain just couldn't handle it after that. So
I
think
agree.
I think we need to put something in to limit it, at least one day a week. I don't care if it's Friday, I don't care if it's Sunday.
So what's the goal? Is it for the transient weekend people who come to visit the valley? Because if that's the
I think-
goal, Sunday's the wrong day.
I think it's for residents myself.
Yeah, well, but I do think the transient people might be having parties that are pretty loud at night or whatever, and some of us residents might like to limit that. too.
so.
They're called anytime.
Absolutely.
See, again, this is where it gets a little bit confusing. There are actually 5 paragraphs to the noise ordinance. And the only ones we're talking about are the first 2, which deal with construction activity. And I suspect, I don't know for a fact, but I suspect that when the noise ordinance was first put together back in 73, I think it was, it goes back a way. Well, maybe 88, I'm forgetting now even. It hasn't been changed for quite some time until a couple of years ago. They were trying to get a handle on commercial construction activity on certain days of the week. So from Monday to Friday, which is generally considered the work week, there are no limitations on what could be considered unreasonable noise, except that it can't start before 8 in the morning, Mondays through Fridays, and Saturdays before 9 o'clock. Other than that, it's the work week. But they tried, I think the intent for Saturday, and Saturday was the same, except you had 9 o'clock, since that's become a work day as well. The standard did not apply after 9 AM to 7 PM, even though the noise ordinance itself, as far as noise goes, actually goes to 10 o'clock. So the idea was to limit the hours for commercial construction activity that produced a lot of noise. I mean, I think we all agree with that. So the intent was we went back and forth. Actually, originally, we were going to loosen it. We talked about it a little bit because of the desire by some commercial construction companies to be able to work more. So we were going to loosen it, but then we got a lot of feedback and we decided, no, actually what we want to do is tighten it up a little bit. And that's where the select board added observed holidays. So for example, this year, there are three observed holidays. New Year's Day was observed on January 2nd. And so businesses could be closed on January 2nd, not just January
It's like when
1st.
banks are closed.
When banks are closed, right? That's why they call it, I think, bank holiday
Exactly.
in the UK. The second day was, I'm sorry, there are only two this year, is coming up, Veterans Day. The observed day is gonna be Friday, November 10th. And the actual day is the 11th. Now, that one is not necessarily as observed by businesses than some of the others.
Not observed by this.
Well, the federal holiday is,
Businesses, stores. and everything else
it's up
are
to states and businesses to comply to the extent that state laws require them to comply. So we've attached it to federal holidays, right? Not to state holidays. We've attached our noise ordinance to federal holidays. So the idea, to get back to the comment that was made, I think the idea was, look, at least on Sundays, let's have a break from this commercial construction activity. And then I think that was also the idea behind holidays as well. So out of the 365 or 66 days in a year, we're talking about basically Sundays and the 11 federal holidays. And I think it was meant more for residents, Mike, I think, than anybody else. I mean, that's my understanding. That's how I've always approached it. I'm not sure if you folks see it differently.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would assume it's more of tradition because Sundays are the traditional day, you know, the blue laws and all that.
It
where
probably sprang
people-
from that as well.
That's been my assumption.
Right. But again, you can work on Sundays. The blue laws were specific
Oh, yeah, we
to
definitely broke-
non-working.
Yes, we definitely going away from that because that's.
Go ahead.
FYI, nobody should complain about noise any more than I can. I don't feel sorry for anybody right now who's complaining about noise. I live in a construction site. And luckily we get really good windows, so we keep the windows shut, we don't hear a whole lot. But Sunday, they have not worked at all.
Right.
Sometimes they do some indoor work on Sundays to get a unit prepared for people passing papers on a Monday. But I had no problem, no noise. In fact, one time they wanted to work past 5 o'clock and they asked our permission. Maybe we work past 5 o'clock. It was a weekday.
Yeah, and they can work to 7 if they want to.
It's a question of. What my magnificent wife is saying is these particular construction. Are very conscientious, that
Mhm.
they are working around residents.
And when it's an issue, a couple of times I've heard them before 8 o'clock. Some banging, and there's some people that care about it more than I do. And I told Matt, the foreman, I said, Dad, they were going around 7:30 this morning. And he immediately goes to the head of the whatever crew is misbehaving. And because they forget sometimes, he tells them, and then 2 months later they forget, and he tells them.
Yeah.
So they've been very responsive, couldn't have asked for it.
I think the idea here is to make sure that there is some protection for residents that were not dependent upon the goodwill
Yeah. Okay.
of a particular company.
Yeah.
Because as it stands right now, if they wanted to start work on a Sunday at 9 o'clock,
They could,
they could.
okay, and yeah,
You could have bulldozers and, you know.
Rock crushers or,
question is very noisy. That's a
Yes.
noisy one.
but whatever, you know.
Oh, do that.
Right, so the reason we've come to where we are is because of I would say probably added up to about 40 people, maybe. There was one petition of about 25 or 30, and then we got individual emails saying, it was 5.5 hours in, the people had left, people didn't really understand what they were voting on. Yes, Madam Moderator. Yes, right.
Counted as voting.
Right.
About removing Sundays.
Right. Do you have the vote in front of you by any chance?
Viewed it before I came. 56 people
Right.
said yes, remove Sundays.
Right. 33.
said
Right.
no,
That's
keep
what I
Sundays in
remember.
there.
Right.
Earlier votes, the written ballot that we had just a little bit before that, was for the Ray Center. That had a total of 104 votes.
Mhm.
The first 3 articles that we voted on written ballot had 121 votes
Mhm.
total. So you can't say that most people left, or even a considerable portion of them.
Yeah.
Voters.
So about 30 people less than at the beginning, roughly.
Less than the beginning, but
So,
that's.
30 out of 120,
5%.
And it wasn't a close vote either.
no. But there was that argument to us, and that it was not understood.
I think there's a fatigue factor too, you know,
Oh, yeah.
people said, oh, the hell with it, I wanna go home and go to bed.
I still don't think I'm rested from that night.
Right,
Well, if people have a chance on June 8th to,
But I.
as the only issue.
I
And it could go
expect
back
that-
the same way as it did at
Yeah,
the
but-
other
And
time.
back to Mike's point, I think the original concern about the article before the whole Sundays thing got thrown in there
right.
was the and observe federal holidays and observe
I think it's-
federal holidays. So if Veterans Day is on a Saturday, then you can't make unreasonable noise Friday and Saturdays.
That's correct. If this were to pass,
That's where we can't just keep adding holidays.
Yeah, I think it should be or myself.
Oh, which one?
you're talking about, or any observed federal
Or
holiday.
the observed day.
Or which one?
Right, we would have to take out. the
Is
observed day.
that dependent upon which one?
Okay,
You choose?
Oh.
I choose?
Oh, and,
Mike, we
Okay.
let Mike choose?
okay,
It
okay.
depends on the year. I think the intent was to,
And
at the beginning of the year, the select board says, this is the list.
unless there's an observed day, that would be the one that would be observed.
Right,
But
but you
I
could, the
think-
select board would pick each
Right, the
year.
select board at the beginning of the
Is it
year
gonna be-
says, okay, let's look at the calendar, we're gonna look at ors, not ands, and say. We're gonna pick this July 3rd, not July 4th, because of
right.
whatever reason.
But you're tying, if I understand correctly, you're tying that to just the question of observed holidays, where
Correct.
I think my reading, and I think others who
Not
listen to it.
observed, holidays in general.
All right, run that by me again.
So you get to pick the holidays that are part of the ordinance that are.
That are not, in which the standard does not apply.
Correct, so
Right,
you pick them. If
Right.
June 3rd makes more sense than, July 3rd makes more sense than July 4th, based on the day that they fall, you pick it. I
Or you
think
could
that's
pick
what the
both.
town wanted.
Maybe Could they pick both, July
Or-
30th?
well, we did ask the question, what do you mean by pick? And we were just told, well,
Pick them,
pick them.
right? So I think that's what the town intended is for you to come up with the list every year. Make it known, and if people, if people need to go make noise on that day, what do? They come and petition and they call and
Well,
say,
they-
hey, I've got a dump truck coming in. It's gonna
And
be
we
half
do
an hour."
that. That's already in the noise ordinance. If somebody has activity that's,
Right,
could be,
but the
they can
difference-
already come and ask
but
for an
the difference is
exception
they
from the
don't-
board.
It's not well defined, it's assumes the dates and so the meeting wanted not to have assumptions on dates, they wanted to have a list of dates, so that way construction worker knows, oh, it's this date, I need to go get a variance from it versus it's not the observed, I can just go work as normal.
Yeah. Again, I just understood it differently. That we were being asked to remove holidays, not just on the issue of observe, but remove holidays from the unreasonable noise standard from the list of 11.
The two amendments, the first amendment was select board makes a list. The second amendment was remove Sundays.
The select board makes a list of holidays that will no longer be subject to the unreasonable noise standard. That's how I understood it. And I think that's how people
No,
who
I think
complained
it's,
to us
that
understood
that
it.
will be subject to it,
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
not,
Right.
that
The
will
select
not,
board makes a list of the dates that you cannot make noise.
right? I agree,
That was.
I agree with that.
Right, which makes it subject to the standard.
So that was amendment 1, and then amendment 2
Right.
was. To
Sundays.
remove holidays from,
Remove Sundays.
Remove
Don't treat Sundays.
Right.
And we chose to interpret that as treat it like a Saturday.
correct,
That was our interpretation of that. So, okay, I mean, any more comments? I mean, we're taking it all in.
well, another thing is, so the way it's written, it's not even talking about Sundays, you're ignoring the whole fact that that 2/3 of the town voted to remove Sundays, and you're having a warrant article that doesn't even address the fact that happens.
So yes, what we did based on the comments we received is fashion a warrant article which puts Sundays back into
It's
the,
not, it doesn't say it though.
Yes.
It does.
Does it?
it adds Sunday back.
Okay,
That's under.
Right now, the noise ordinance, I'm sorry, I don't have the current one in front of me. It's Saturdays and Sundays are the same,
Sharon.
based on the vote.
Upstairs,
Oh, I could probably get it.
what do you mean by current?
The way,
The one that we voted on.
the way that we're going to vote on it.
The warrant.
We'll have that. We'll have what the current one is, and we will have what the revised language is for everybody at the meeting on 8 June.
And the original one.
And the original.
And we could do the original
Just to
one.
really
Because
Right.
confuse everybody.
There were people that. There were people that did not understand that which they were voting on, that which it was before, and now they're not gonna understand that which will be.
Right.
Clearly, I'm sorry, it clearly has to delineate the three and have it explain that which it actually says. I think it's really, as I talk to people around town, they didn't understand.
Well, I mean, and that's why we're here today. I mean, that's the feedback we were getting. Barry, I see you sitting there. Did you want to,
Sundays.
you want Sundays to, you want the noise standard to apply on Sundays like it had prior to town meeting?
Where I live and where Jenny lives, it's an amphitheater. I hear the click clack of the skateboarders.
So are you
I hear-
gonna eliminate that?
No.
Okay.
Well,
Because if you can hear it from an adjacent
No, he's just.
property.
Then you have to,
justify
what
it.
is determined an unreasonable noise? I'll tell you what an unreasonable.
This becomes a question,
When,
if we talk about the skateboard park. That's an entirely different.
then I go to the selectmen and say, hey, I consider that unreasonable noise, and if they do too.
Okay, Barry, so again, we have to be careful here. The paragraph 3 talks about noise. We do not regulate noise between the hours of 8 AM and 10 PM, Monday through Friday, and 9 AM and 10 PM on Saturdays and Sundays. Right.
I don't have any problem with that.
Over your
Except for the
skateboard park
Sundays.
is an issue.
No, he's
After
just
10
saying
o'clock
he
at
can
night,
hear it.
After 10 o'clock at night,
Oh,
yeah.
that's reasonable.
Right, and we're not changing, all we're talking about are the first 2 paragraphs.
That and,
Right.
the propane tank filling up in town square at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's unreasonable noise, and it's before 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Patrick,
And that's enforceable.
To answer-
And I called the police and they took care of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's what I was gonna say, and Barry's a great example because, well, to answer Mike's question first, I think the ordinance, who calls us are residents. So I think the ordinance is not for guests, it's for you residents that it is a resort town, so the residents are who call us at night. But like Barry said, what Barry thinks is unreasonable, Mike, Jenny, anybody thinks unreasonable is it's your ears, so call us. Well, how we've started to address it is if it's a business, and in that case, we talk to the business and say, hey, if you don't be quiet, the next one's a ticket. Instruction sets, if you're not quiet, if we go to the house parties, who's responsible for this part? If you're not quiet, you get a summons if we come back. So the residents are the people that are complaining per se or calling us. So I would say the ordinance is for the residents and not, I don't want to single out the guests, but they're not calling us. The residents are calling.
Yeah.
Noise at the end of the day.
and there also is another nuance or another part of the noise ordinance here. We do regulate 24 hours a day noise produced by cars or in
Yeah.
cars. So that's, again, it's another separate, and this is what confuses people because there are 5 separate paragraphs to the noise ordinance, and we're not talking about work, we're talking about noise. And that's what we were trying to address by calling this special meeting. We got enough complaints by people to say that they didn't understand quite what was going on.
I just wanna finish by saying, I think it's at the meeting in June, I think it's important that you explain that this is not a no construction warrant article,
Mhm.
this is just a noise article, and that you can still do your painting and electrical work and your
Indoor.
laying your spots, whatever you're doing. It's just a noise, and also, that if there's a contractor in town that has a huge piece of expensive equipment and they wanna work straight through the weekend or on a holiday, they can come to you and you. can-
Right, and they
I
have,
think people
right.
didn't understand both of those things.
Right.
The first.
Any other comments from the public?
Yeah, so I think we should expect at least one amendment for the observed federal holidays piece to the warrant article.
Or
And
The or.
the or.
instead of the end.
Would it behoove us to
Mhm.
have one of the selectmen have that ready?
Um,
I'll agree
okay.
that that's gonna be an issue and confusing.
right.
The three of you want to think about.
I was gonna say, I think I need to think about, I'm not sure I'm capturing the full and or difference at this time, and maybe my fellow select board members can educate me.
As it's written right now, for example, Columbus, Veterans Day, if it falls on a Saturday and it's observed on a Friday, both
Okay.
Friday and Saturday would be subject to the standards.
Right.
And
I think that's great.
The way this is
is
written,
that what you want? Is that what you want?
I think that was the original intent.
I don't,
That's what it said.
No, I think when we voted to put observed
And is that
holidays
gonna
in,
be- Is
For
that
last
gonna be
year,
clear to
what you
people,
brought.
especially say it comes to a new holiday, Juneteenth is the newest one, if it falls on a Saturday and observed on a Friday. Will people understand that both those days would be?
all right, we need to clarify that.
And that's where the list them.
on Martin Luther King's actual birthday versus the the Monday.
Yeah, but those don't move. I mean, that you gotta be careful because,
Juneteenth and Veterans Day are the two I know are 4th of July, New Year's Day. There are some that are always on the day. Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples' Day is the third Monday of the month.
Right.
Um,
yeah, there are three categories, actually. I mean, it's confusing trying to attach our noise ordinance to. There are holidays that are just on a specific day. Doesn't matter. Thanksgiving, July 4th. There are holidays which are always going to be on a Monday. And so Columbus Day is considered as one of those.
President's Day.
Washington's President's Day. It's always going to be whatever it is, the third Monday of February. So the observe doesn't come in those cases. You're not observing the actual day. Anyway, that is the holiday,
Right, you're right.
that Monday. So but there are some holidays, Veterans Day is one. And there are a couple others. I'll have to look at them where the holiday moves, and you could end up in that situation where you'd have the 2 days back to back.
I have one more comment that I just.
Yes,
thought
sir.
of, Just. You know, I think this is more of a summertime issue than a winter.
Yes.
Issue, but it made me just think, what about the groomer? Groomer's making a noise. It goes by my house every morning. Beep, 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 goes by twice.
Mhm.
I mean,
So that's,
What about the groomer? I mean, the
Okay.
groomer's gonna be grooming town square and somebody could say, no, you can't do it on Sundays.
no, well, first of all, it's not construction activity, right?
No.
So, and Sundays only comes into play it's only mentioned in our noise ordinance with regard to construction activity.
So,
But Mike has a really important question. So that when the cross-country groomer goes by his house at 7 o'clock in the
Mhm.
morning on Thursday,
usually earlier, okay.
well, 5 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Whatever time it goes by, on Thursday, for example. That's an issue because the noise ordinance starts at 8.
Right.
Right.
And we can
So-
take that up at next year's town meeting.
Well, no, that is,
But we
that is,
have we're bringing this up to try and fix the noise issue. In my view, not 2 paragraphs. Let's resolve the issue.
Right, but I'm just saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that's not part of what we're talking about here.
we were trying to limit it just to
Just-
the 2 paragraphs that deal with construction activity. No, that's true. And that's what happened. There's no way anyone can come forward and say, I want to address this. It's up to town meeting to decide whether they want to address it. I think, Mike, it's not only that example, for example, people could complain about leaf blowers on Sundays. We don't have any noise regulation against leaf blowers on Sundays.
Glad to hear that.
Just like we don't have any regulations against,
I use my wood splitter on Sundays.
right,
But we're not getting called for anything like that.
No.
Never called for the-
Right. right.
I just worry the Pandora's box is open. Somebody could interpret this and then all of a sudden limit the ability to groom for. So they're not going by the houses at 5 o'clock in the morning when it's convenient to groom.
Right.
And they're now grooming when people are using the trails.
It's always a possibility once you open it up, so it would be those who want to
Well, we have
defend
the
it.
authority to override. So if somebody brought it up and, and the town thought grooming was fine, we have the power to override it by the ordinance.
As a one-time event or as a.
I assume we could do a blanket override, I would think.
I think it would be whatever the town meeting decides, if they want to decide that, to shut down these other types of noises that are not related to construction activity outside of the 8 AM or 9 AM to 10 PM time period, then yes, someone could make that amendment or proposal, and then it would be discussed and voted upon. So you're absolutely
Does the noise
correct.
ordinance apply to the national forest?
No. I think only
just
health and
curious.
safety. I think only health and safety ordinance
Well,
state.
not true, I mean, because if they call us from the campground, we deal with, so I'm gonna go to, this is what we usually use an ordinance for, it's 11 o'clock at night and people are
Right.
partying. We go to the campgrounds all the time for their quiet hours are still 10 o'clock because they're still in Waterville Valley, so our law does still apply to them. So if we go to Osceola Vista all the time, Waterville campground all the time,
I'm
just
just,
people that are just loud.
For the noise ordinance.
Yeah.
so the noise ordinance is,
What about if, I'm sorry, Mike, but what
No.
about if the resort wanted to have a wedding up on the mountain and it was gonna go to 1 or 2 in the morning and it created noise and people could hear it?
That is the key right there, and I think we need to address this is. It's again in the beholder, if you do not call, we
Right,
cannot
but if-
be that person.
But what if somebody
We
calls
call them to shut it down, it's a wedding, it's noise.
because it's in the town? See, I didn't think that. I thought only health and safety. I thought only health and safety apply to,
Cause we can enforce anything within the town, the boundaries of Waterville Valley.
and Livermore.
well, not our zoning ordinance. I don't think we can apply our zoning,
I don't know about zoning.
Zoning.
Having
No, zoning, wait a minute,
but that's an ordinance.
zoning is different. My understanding when I read all this stuff,
All right, we'll look into it.
zoning is different than noise. The way I believe it is written, so it is written, so it be, back in the Pharaoh's time. Is that the noise is written not for our 500 acres, but our entire boundary is the way I believe it's written.
It's just different in enforcement, so police have the ability for noise ordinances and those type of, but zoning we do not, that's.
Right, but I'm thinking, I don't know. I honestly don't know whether our selectmen ordinances apply if it's not health and safety to activities in the national forest. There is a state law talking about nuisance. So maybe that's what we use if there's something going on outside or in the property of the national forest.
It's disorderly conduct, we just have, so.
Right, so that's a different,
Disorderly conduct, so then the state, the town adopts the ordinance.
right,
As long as, so like speeding on these roads that are
Right.
town roads, we can enforce it.
right. See, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that's the process. It isn't so much our noise ordinance per se, but we're leveraging a state law with regard to what's happening in the national forest. I don't know. Well, we can check that out. But I don't think we want to solve all of the problems about noise in this one June 8th meeting. I think we want to stay away from that, right?
6 hour.
Right, or because, well, in trying to get to all these issues when we haven't really had a chance to digest. What changes like this would mean. We're trying to focus in. Anyway, but you had another comment?
Last question. I don't think I've ever fully read a warrant before, but at the very end where it talks about the date. I found it odd the way it phrased the date. It said June 8th. in the year of our Lord, 2012, which I found odd, that we still needed that old fashioned wording. And especially when we're talking about bringing Sundays back into the ordinance, I just felt.
Yeah, I don't know what I honestly
If I was.
don't know.
Future warrants, if we, I don't think legally we need that wording. I would say just put the date in the way people expect it.
Okay.
Is there an RSA about that maybe?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm guessing that this is the language that's standard.
It might be
By the state.
standard and old-fashioned, I think it's.
Time to change it.
Maybe if we can, I mean, that's, well, I don't know what did our, did our warrant, I think our warrant for the town meeting has it at the very end, the same language, right?
But I found it odd this time, particularly because we were discussing Sundays, that it
Right.
makes
Yeah,
it was very
Right.
old.
Fashion, although we're not saying you can't work on Sundays,
yeah.
right? Okay, that's something we can look at. Well, okay. We are unique. How about unique? Will you take unique? Does anybody else want to comment, enlighten the select board on your views of where we ought to be going on this on June 8th? Okay,
Close the issue.
can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for your comments, and for anybody who's listening, you still can provide comments to the select board on this issue, up until the 8th of,
Or come on the night of the 8th.
and coming the night of the 8th, and let's have it.
And if you.
Yes, you have to be there, yeah. Okay, do I have anyone here for privilege of the floor? Jenny, are you here for the well for beaver issue? Are you under any kind of time constraint? Because it's fairly deep into the agenda, but I can move.
I'll just watch it at home.
Okay, you sure? Because I can move it up. Okay. Approval of the minutes. Anybody have any further comments on the
Nope.
minutes? A motion then?
I'll move that we approve the minutes for April.
6th and April 12th as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. All right.
One comment on the minutes is we had been catching up in terms of the minutes being.
Yes.
Available now, it seems we're falling behind a little bit again. This is.
Okay.
Now, and I think we need to try to get the minutes published early.
Okay.
I think back to the shed discussion, perhaps if the minutes, because reading the minutes is much quicker than watching the meeting. If the minutes were published and people could see quickly that the shed was going to be a shed put on Portland's Pond, we might have had feedback from townspeople before the shed actually appeared.
Okay.
That's a valid point.
Yep. We'll check on that. Try to maintain getting them out more quickly. I would just assume that it's just been the press of business
I know.
more than anything else. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to financial reports. Steve, I see you've provided us with the report as of the 30th of April.
Correct.
Yep. Anything you'd like to highlight?
I have, a couple of points. You're going down the list of collected percentages, and you see some spikes and valleys.
Mhm.
There's a the public safety revenue line, you'll see is approaching 70% collected. That's primarily due to the $25,000 firehouse sub grant that we were recipient of to buy some hydraulic equipment for the fire trucks. So that captures 25,000 of that spike, but that line is trending positively due to the ambulance collection fees that we receive from Comstar. Also, from an expense standpoint, you'll see the general overhead line that is pretty shallow right now. And that's primarily due to that line captures our contingency monies. that we have $150,000 approved for. So that's why we are so under in that department. The executive line, you'll see that we're 54% spent in that line, and that captures the town meeting expenses there, so that's timing. The insurance line is timing. You'll notice that is, the insurance line has 47% collected. And that's because we paid our Q2 insurance bill in April, so again, timing. Buildings, highways and streets and wastewater in the low 40%, low to mid 40% spent, and that is primarily due to timing around our electric bills.
Mhm.
Electricity is more expensive in the first quarter of the year. But I just, wanted to highlight those just because I pointed them out as some fluctuations. Do you all have any questions?
Bob, Wendy?
I didn't have any, and nothing stood out to me.
Yeah, no. That's good. I'm good.
Okay, so there has been a proposal made that with regard to financial reports, specifically with the rec department, that we adopt a new procedure for recording how rec department financial reports are done. Have you guys seen the proposal?
The emails? or-
The emails, I think it was expressed to us via emails.
Yes.
Mike, I don't know if you want to speak to the issue here. I don't see Amy.
I spoke to Brooke previously. And there are various people in town that feel that we need more detail with regard to the rec department, for example, and I don't mean to pick on any project, but for example, does the camp, and just pick on one, does the camp is it cash flow positive or cash flow negative, and by approximately how much? That's something that people would like to know. Same 4 or 5 other items that we could discuss. And that is something that several people have said. I spoke to Amy, to Brooke after thing and said, I'd be happy to sit down with her and figure out a methodology that we could approximate this. And that was one thing, and the other thing that was in the email that I sent out was that I've been in contact with the Manchester Fish Cats about having a Waterville Valley night/day down at their stadium, which if you haven't been there, it's a gorgeous stadium, if you haven't been there. And basically, you came back to me and said, no, don't go forward with that. We're gonna discuss, the entire select board should discuss this,
Mhm.
so.
Well, for just a minor correction, on the latter issue, I said it's fine. I think it's any resident can talk to the rec department head if they have a suggestion about a program or a comment about a currently running program. I think I sent you that email and then said, however, I think on the larger issue, the accounting issue that you're referring to, that's a more of an in-depth discussion with the full select board.
Go ahead.
I
Okay.
guess my concern is even if you do pick the programming apart, to what end? I mean, because residents, correct me if I'm wrong, but residents don't pay, or property owners don't pay to participate in a program, right?
I paid for participation
In some,
in the road race.
in some of the programs.
Yeah, some programs have a fee for residents and some don't, but if they have a fee, it's a discounted fee.
Right. So if you have a program where, say, 30 property owners attend, but it's a program without a fee, but you still have to pay staff and whatever, then that program is losing money. But it would seem to be popular. So I'm just wondering, to what end are you trying to pick it apart?
I specifically said that there are programs that have what I call fixed fee. It is not a variable fee, it's something else, so that, for example, there are things to do it. And I'm not talking about every program. I'm talking about, let's start with something. There are people that are asking questions, and the questions are being ignored.
Well, yeah.
It's just that we help finance the the town finances the rec department,
Mhm.
you know. And people just wanna know, where is the money going? Is it making money? Is it losing money? If it's losing money, how can we not lose the money? If it's making money, can you figure out why it's making the money and how can we do more of that? I think every program, everywhere, especially ones that you're giving money to, has to be evaluated.
Right, so I would suggest that that Brooke and Steve and maybe Judy get together and figure out what kinds of information we have that would help the town
It really is a
understand.
lot.
Well,
Rather than have citizens go in and try to let's work internally and figure out whether there's things that we can present that satisfy some of your questions.
This is not the first time we've asked for this.
so I think there are a couple of things going on here.
This is not the first time that it's been approached to town management with this question,
Right.
all right? And town management told another town resident that it would be made available to them. It wasn't. I've done this before. I'm very happy to step away. I've got lots of other things to do. And based upon what you just said, I'm stepping away. I expect at town meeting for this information to be there.
So what we've done
How's that?
what we've done in the past is that we do regularly, as you see, we review financial reports and we do make changes in how it's presented to us, that is during the year. So up until this point, unless there's any difference now, the select board has been satisfied that the information it's receiving via the town manager from the department heads satisfies our concerns with regard to expenditures and revenues, and that it meets what needs to be met with regard to municipal accounting practices. So what you're talking about is adding to that, doing something different, trying to see if programs are profitable or not profitable. That's a different question.
Well, but in order to do this, we need a breakdown. You need to know you do that with the school, you do it. with the
We do have a breakdown,
Of. the-
not by particular programs, but by other categories. Personnel, supplies, help me out here, Brooke, there's like a half a dozen different,
There's lots.
if you go under the category of recreation.
In order to, I think, to get what you're talking about, would have to allocate like Brooks pay.
No, that's not what I said, and if you read the email, I said that there are fixed costs. All right, and we're not allocating fixed costs, we're allocating variable costs. All right, I've done this before.
So
I'm not, based upon what you've said, I'm not gonna do it for the town. I expect that when we have the next town meeting,
Mhm.
I know someone that's gonna stand up there and say, this has been asked for several years in a row,
Mhm.
and town management has ignored it.
Well, I don't think it's ignored it, Mike. I think, to be honest, it's been rejected and the select board has agreed with
That's
it.
fine, the select board has opted.
So it comes back to the select board.
Select board
Yeah,
and town management has elected not to go in
Not-
that direction.
not to do its
And that-
accounting
and-
on the
and that is
basis of
a
whether a program is
fine, and that is the
profitable or not
answer.
profitable.
That is the answer.
But I
by
don't
the
understand the
select board.
rationale for that.
No, I do understand the rationale, but I just key in on what Wendy said and maybe you'd like to add. The rec department is not meant to turn a profit. It's meant to provide services. So to me, the main question is it profitable, but is it a program that people want? And then we just do it because no one else is going to do that program. Who's going to run the pickleball program? Do we care if it's profitable or not profitable?
So we don't care if we lose money, we're putting
Well,
money into it and losing money.
I think it's a
Well,
matter of whether.
It's
it-
providing a
it-
service.
Yeah, it's providing
You
a
lose
service.
money on sewer and water also,
Yeah,
you know, I mean, it's the cost of doing
Yeah.
business in the town. One thing we did look at is the net amount of money that goes out to support recreation as a percentage of the total town tax rate, which has been decreasing.
That's right.
So we're looking at the trend so that we're not adding percentage wise to the tax rate. We're decreasing the tax.
It's actually gone down as a percentage of the tax rate. And we've had these discussions.
I'm aware of that.
Right, so we've had these
My issue
discussions,
is-
Mike.
My issue is very simple. My issue is very simple, and you
Mhm.
now have given me the answer. The answer is, this has been asked for several years.
Mhm.
No one ever chose to give the people that were asking the question an answer. That's my issue.
Now you are.
You have now given me an answer.
Okay,
The answer is that in the view of the select board. That's all that matters. And I think that that's a fine answer, if that's your answer.
And one can do.
Whether I.
Well, I would-
Whether I agree with it or not is not relevant.
what I would add to that is that we do have budget discussions where we discuss various programs and the impact on the tax rate. And in fact, for town meeting, unfortunately, it went so long. For town meeting, we had a whole presentation on breakdowns in the rec department. That in fact, for example, the when you subtract the revenues from expenditures. The tax rate, we actually pay a lower percentage of the tax rate than we have in the past. So we had all that, but we chose not to, the town meeting chose not to explore it at this year's, excuse me, town meeting. Patty, I think you had
I was gonna say back to
Comment.
what Tina's point, I think people would be interested to know on the big programs. The big one that comes to mind is the summer camps,
Mhm.
which is a wonderful program, and I think enhances the whole town.
Yeah.
And visitors.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, but just out of curiosity, do we make money? Does that cost the town money? Do we charge enough for that? Because it's such a wonderful program. I think most people who I've heard think it's a phenomenal deal. That money, we're gonna charge double what we charge or more.
Right,
Do we charge enough? Just out of curiosity, how much does it bring in? How much does it cost?
and we do discuss that, I mean, at a budget hearings.
Maybe there's some information we can share.
Well, I mean, okay,
Just
yeah,
like to respond, I just want you to know that things are looked at line by line and analyzed and adjusted every single year to make sure that we're doing our best. I mean, that's.
I'm not questioning that you don't do your best, and there are great programs.
But, so I just want everyone to know that that's happening. It's a critical eye all the time. And in terms of the summer camp, that one certainly makes money. And I've been here, this will be my 10th year coming up, and, you're trying to charge enough, to make the program run and to, have some revenue. However, you don't want to box out some of the other people. So it's a fine line between the people
right,
that are.
we're not trying to maximize profit,
Right. It's
we're providing a service.
We also had a discussion at the town meeting about boats and how boats
Yeah.
do make money.
Right,
Yeah, definitely both, but I'm just speaking to camp, because it's a fine line, because you have to, people are coming up here from Massachusetts, I'll just say that. With this idea of how much camp should cost, which is far more than what we charge. However, the amount that we charge is a little bit more than what our regional people that we serve can pay.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to find that balance, but it is definitely. It is definitely making money, our camp program. If you want to just pick out one program, our camp program is certainly.
so. Would,
But it's making money for the rest of the department. So when I say making money, I don't mean profiting, I'm saying that it helps the rest of the.
support other
But I think
programs,
That one, even if it didn't make money, would be a worthwhile one to keep going.
right,
Definitely, but who's going to say,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many programs that could be broken up, some that would be harder than others to break out because, they're covered by 3 salaries and, other things. But, who's to say, so say the adult programs make nothing, they lose money, should we get rid of those? Should we keep only, children's programs? I know that's not true, but we've heard that loud and clear from people in the last.
Nobody said to get rid of any program.
I know, I'm just trying to answer some of the questions that are coming out that, it's just, I just think it's a philosophy of how you're paying for this department to run programs, right? It's a service that's being provided. Some people are gonna pay an extra fee to enjoy those services, like the kids that go to camp. or the people that go on the bike rides or whatever. They're gonna pay because everyone else shouldn't support their activity to go on those bike rides or participate in camp. So we have to charge them a little bit an additional amount. But overall, this is a service that's made available to this town. And that's, you know, that's what you're paying for.
So I would reiterate that we have these in-depth discussions with all the department heads during budget setting time every fall, where we go over the various programs. And in fact, I think that the slides that we had intended to present about rec department costs and how we calculate them and what it means, and things like the tax percentage of the tax rate for rec department now is lower than it has been in the past. We never got to those because of just the length of the meeting and people wanted to wrap things up. However, I think those slides can be given to people, like, as a paper version of the slides, if you want that more information. That's,
Would you consider sharing it with the town?
Yeah, let's do that.
well, yes, I just said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, anybody who wants it, but I would say this, the other issue here is that at any time, if anybody in the town has a question about a department administrative procedure or department operation, please come to the town manager to discuss it, because he's the one who directs the department heads on issues that involve procedures and operations. That will simplify things. And so in this case, if you would like a paper copy of the slides that we had, that actually Brooke had put together and that the select board had discussed prior to our last town meeting, just get a hold of the town, either come into Sharon. And if you want to talk more about it, you can come in front of us, or you can talk to Mark, or you can just come and collect a copy of the slides.
You didn't hear what I said. Several people for several years have asked
Mhm.
for what you just said and have never gotten an answer. That is the issue.
So now you'll get.
All right,
answers.
well, I just gave the answer then.
So that, and I have no problem with Brooke. Brooke and her department do a great job, and you've heard me say that more than once. Right? That's not my issue. I can do the math too. I've done it. I understand the percentages. I also understand the question of which is getting better, the amount of the net cost or the amount of the valuation. I know that.
Mhm.
I've been around this block. I'm not a rookie, but that's not the issue. The issue is that people have asked this question. They've asked it for several years of town manager. And never in that entire time has someone come along and said that which you just said. I may agree with it or disagree with it.
Mhm.
However, that's not the point. The point is, at least it was answered.
Okay, let's get the slides.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do. I don't necessarily agree with it as you express it, but yes, I think I answered it this time. But remember, we have several meetings in the fall, which are all about budget. And anybody can come and listen and comment on what we are trying to do with the budget on any given department and any program. So that's always available. Wendy?
Okay, we're good.
Okay. I think we're done with financials.
Oh, we're leaving?
Steve,
What, you still with the statement, boss?
All right,
anything else?
On administrative?
Stay with Steve.
Yeah. Steve, you got anything out? You got anything else on administrative?
Yeah, just wanted to share some metrics for April. In the post office, we saw about 1,140 incoming packages and 140 outgoing packages with $2,400 transacted. Motor vehicle registrations, we processed 70 in April. Seeing about 13.5 in revenue there, which is a positive plus $3,300 year over year for the month. Building permits were strong. We saw 15 total permits issued. Again, that building permit is capturing COs and actual construction permits. Collecting $6,300 in fees there, with total project costs in that line, $1.57 million for the month of April. That's all I had to share.
Okey-doke. Brooke, anything you'd like to
Oh,
brief us
my
on?
department?
Rec? Yep.
Yeah. So we had the wilderness first aid class this weekend, that well attended. We also had a wonderful, presidential rail trail ride with 7 people yesterday. That was, so, I don't know if you know this, but
Mhm.
Tyler has been loading up people on their bikes and.
Went to the
going-
presidentials, was it?
This was presidential rail trail.
Mm-hmm.
That was really successful, and I think that's gonna keep, doing really well.
Right.
We also have the waterfront fully open. We were open again this weekend. We didn't have a ton of people, but it was for those private groups. But this coming weekend is our big opener, and it looks gorgeous, so I'm sure we'll be very busy. Speaking of that, we have the fishing derby this Saturday. Same place as always, so make sure you're there. And then we also have playground trips that were delivered yesterday.
Playground what?
Fortunately-
Chips, wood
Oh,
chips.
chips.
Yeah, I went by after the WBRA meeting this morning and drove by to make sure that they were there because we have someone coming today to spread the chips. Well, there were about 1/8 of the chips on the playground and then the rest were under the basketball.
I noticed
hoop
that.
on- But yeah, so I called them and there was a big miscommunication with, I think, when we had that dirt delivered for the field in the fall, they had written some notes on where to put it, which was under the basketball net, and those weren't deleted from the page, you know. So anyway, they did this whole thing, so they're gonna pay for it to be moved to the playground. They're gonna pay our landscaping guy who's gonna spread the chips tomorrow to move them also. So anyway, it will be resolved tomorrow. Right now, it looks a little weird. So, we also are just making a lot of purchases right now to get ourselves ready for the summer, get the field ready. The waterfront, you know, we're getting some soccer, we just got some soccer wheels to go on the nets. I don't know if anyone's ever tried to move those nets. They're very heavy, so those will be nice to move the nets. Some odds and ends at the waterfront like PFDs and, you know, a new floating piece that goes on the dock to keep, you know, where the ramp goes into the dock. It's gonna have a floating piece to lift it up, and we've been missing that for a couple of years, so we're excited about to get that back. Let's see what else. Still looking for 1 to 2 positions to fill. This is probably the latest I've still been looking, so.
The summer camp.
Uncomfortable feeling, yes. For summer camp, so. So we still have a couple of leads, and we're still trying to.
Want to advertise to the people at home?
We keep advertising, yes, I am advertising, I've been trying to.
Age,
Yeah, yeah,
hours,
yeah,
what
16 and older.
Yeah. part of a larger group working with the camps,
Oh, yeah.
summer camps.
Yep. Yep. So I have hope that we'll get it done. Duck signs, we did purchase those duck signs, they came in.
They're
And
on my desk and we'll get them out this week or.
Right, where are we going to put them?
well, we were thinking we'll have one on the dock, one over on the beach side on the other sign. One maybe on the bridge
Bridge,
area.
I was gonna say
and
the
then
bridge, yeah.
If they'll allow it, and it's kind of a cutesy sign that says, don't feed me, or it says, please don't feed the ducks no matter what they say.
Right,
So,
right, we don't know if the town is, excuse me, if the resort is planning to put up any of its own
Yeah.
signs,
we
but
do
we
have
can
a
offer
lot,
them.
so
We can offer them a sign if they'd like it.
yeah, and we can get more as well if we find need.
Yeah, and if those could go up this week instead of next week, the holiday weekend.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Tyler had the two in his hand today too, so I think between, yeah. Tyler is required to take a week no trace training, which is a 2-day training next weekend in order to keep our outfitter permit with the National Forest, so he'll be doing that. And I think those are the major updates for right now, unless there are any questions.
Boats look good when you drive by on the road.
Yeah,
over
look very
Over
nice.
the bridge and you look across the pond at the boats, it looks, the new location looks good,
Yeah, good,
very
How's
colorful.
it,
yeah.
how's it work so far? I know it's very limited.
Yes.
It's only been a
working-
couple of weekends, but
Yeah, it's working really well. really happy with it. I mean, there are a lot of advantages that we're already noticing, so we're happy to have it there. It'll be, of course, a totally different situation this weekend.
Yeah, this will be the test. So
Is it honestly, the weather is probably going to make it busier, so. Which is great. Hopefully the fish are still biting.
they don't catch them all.
2 porta potties were also placed
Oh,
at Packard Field on Friday. And they'll be cleaned twice a week.
And those are the only porta potties that the town is responsible for this year.
I saw Tom Gross moved his around the
Oh,
corner.
did he?
Yeah,
On the other side of the,
yeah, so it's not quite as visible as it was right in front.
I
Yeah.
was like, that's kind of an odd. spot.
Yeah.
anything else?
I think that's all I can think of at the moment. There's lots going on. You know, with school, with end of year stuff, and we're wrapping up our after school program in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, just very busy right now. Planning and trying to change seasons.
Okay. Anything else from the board? Any other questions? Thank you. Chief Payer, what you got?
I echo Brooke with the busy. Very consistent for the dead time of year. We're also hiring 21, have a license and a clean record. I'm struggling with that as well. Citizens Academies, we had our first week last week, but again this Thursday. Really good turnout, I think 15 to 20 the first one. And we got notice that a couple just weren't able to make it, so expect probably about another 20 this Thursday. Let's stop the bleed, and Rainey's doing his presentation this Thursday, so we have a different thing every Thursday, so if you can come out. The other thing is just like kudos to Colby Morrison and Zach. They both graduated fire school this past weekend, so they're official firefighters now. And then Joe Noricchio passed advanced EMT, so he's officially done, along with one of our per diem staff, all of Piscataway, so all 4 of them passed this weekend, so other than that, just plug on, consistent. And unfortunately, poor Wendy sees me every time I do anything now lately, so like. So,
You're doing your job very well.
yeah.
Anything from the fire side or the permit side? I don't see
I don't know anything.
David here.
David's off today.
Okay, Dylan. What's happening, water, wastewater operations?
Operationally, things are going pretty good.
Right.
Our slow time of the year definitely right now, flows have gone out pretty well. Get the spring melt over with, infiltration is done by. We had the water shut down yesterday over in Town Square, that went well, minimal impact. From what my understanding is anyway, they reached out to Wendy to make sure that it didn't seem like Town Square got affected too badly with it. That was brief. The original shutdown, I think, was for 8 hours. Dana White had that done in 3.5
Mhm.
roughly. So
That was because of the condos.
yes,
The new
Yeah.
construction, right?
they had to relocate the water main due to them adding additional units to that development. So that went seamlessly. The road project is just keeping on top of that. I have some involvement with that to do due to the water and sewer. utilities.
Right, on the culverts and drainage and all that.
That's been somewhat of a surprising feat in and of itself, just because there's a lot of things that we didn't even know existed where they're located. A lot of older utilities that some of them are abandoned, some aren't. So as we dig these culverts up to replace them, we find some more stuff.
Couple of small cars,
Yeah,
rocks
rocks that are
the size of small
on the
cars.
side of it, goes through tables put together, yeah, some big ones. But other than that, things are going well.
So on the water shut off, is it fair to say that with all the new construction that we're going to see going forward, this will be an irregular but expected occurrence? Is that a good way to put it?
There shouldn't be, unless there's any new developments, there shouldn't be any additional shutdowns to that magnitude that we had.
Okay,
Isolating valves is not anything that's an uncommon occurrence. If anything, it should happen more often than it does, but we have such limited staff. Really, what should happen is our gate valves throughout town should be exercised on a annual basis, all of them. We have some gate valves that are.
Just to see if they work, in other words,
Yeah,
right?
make
They're
sure-
not
make sure they
frozen or
work.
whatever.
That's sure that they work, so that way if you need them through the water main break, you can isolate an area. But again, it's one of those things that, because things have been so busy. Really the last, as long as I've been here anyway, and before that, with the limited staff, it's something that falls by the wayside. It's not critical, if you will, I mean, it's critical in the long-term longevity of our infrastructure. But the day-to-day, staffing wise, them getting on valves, there's so many of them in the community that it's hard to make a dent with just one person doing one a day, if that makes sense. You couldn't get them all done in a year. So, but unless there's some major development regarding town square, I don't foresee any major shutdowns or anything like that anytime soon.
Good.
Yeah.
Great.
So unless anyone knows anything about development, I'm not aware of.
Anything else for Dylan? All right, great. Thank you. Anything else, Public Works, Steve, that you know about?
Well, just doing cleanup at the well connection site. Right now, they did a little paving work that came out.
That was Greeneast, yeah, I didn't even mention that.
Yeah, we'll have the water project update in a little bit,
Okay.
but,
That works.
right.
In terms of public works, I mean, they're still working on the transfer station.
Right.
site.
Hear a lot of chopping and sawing going on up there. Can't get down the road to see what's actually going on. Nothing else of note with Public Works.
You know, on
Yep.
roads. I know Margaret always complained about the potholes on the West Branch Bridge. Why don't we, maybe it's been discussed in the past, I don't know, but it seems to me that if we pulled up the pavement and put down planks going the opposite way, that would be a better way to maintain that bridge. And otherwise we have a problem every year with the pavement breaking up because the bridge moves.
What you just said is exactly what's going to happen.
Okay.
That's already been determined, yeah.
Oh.
The asphalt's gonna be ripped off and they're gonna put running planks on it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think we had talked about it some time ago. There was some holdup at the Forest Service at some point.
Yeah,
Because we maintain that bridge.
yeah, one of the issues, my understanding anyways, historically speaking, and that's not my department, but just from my understanding, what I gathered is that the snowcats have traditionally used that bridge to get to the other side of the West Branch. Well, that was why it had to be paved,
Paved.
because the snowcats are gonna chew up the wooden deck of the bridge. So I think that's part of why, but to your point, it becomes a super onerous maintenance issue.
Yeah,
Because every year, you can't bond asphalt from wood to wood.
Yeah.
It doesn't bond. So every year, it's just gonna have the
well,
same
there's
thing.
other bridges in town that are wood that the snowcats go over.
Right, but.
Going out Livermore.
But they're not plowed.
Huh?
They're not plowed.
Right, there's
Right,
they're not plowed.
that's true, that's
So
true.
that's gonna have to be, that's one of the things that those bridges, that bridge, I should say, will be plowed and open.
Right,
kept Open, so that way police and fire is the minimum, you can get to that side of town
right.
quick. So.
Okay.
That-
That's good
why
news, though,
I-
anyway. I mean, that's been an issue for, I don't know how many years,
Yeah.
that bridge.
Ever
When is
since
that
then.
gonna-
This summer, at some point, hopefully soon, because it is a nightmare to drive over it. Yeah.
All right, I think that takes care of all the department heads. Move on to calendar review. So our next meeting is in 3 weeks, June 14th, our next regular select board meeting. The planning board next meeting is June 8th at 8 PM. Our meeting, by the way, will be at 3 PM here on the 14th. Have we heard anything back from the school board about a spring joint meeting?
Yep, Mike said he was gonna discuss it tomorrow at the school board's meeting to get the school board's thoughts on whether they'd like to host or if we're gonna host or when that should be.
And the dates, I think we proposed one of our meeting dates in June,
Yeah, I
if they want us to host.
highlighted both meeting dates in June and talked to them a little bit about what our July schedule will look like too.
Okay, great.
Mark just sent a text that said that Bill Dwyer will address the snowcat issue when he's back. So.
Great, okay, got it. All right, and as we've already heard, special town meeting, June 8th. At 6 PM in the elementary school gym. Anything else on calendar at this point? Okay. New business, finalizing the clean water state revolving fund application paperwork.
Got it. So this is a continuation of our prior $4 million loan application that we submitted with the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. And this application is for the 37 million that was authorized at town meeting this year. What we're asking the board to do today is simply vote on it, and we will then handle the administrative tasks that follow to get it submitted by the due date of June 30.
Okay. For the full 37, right? That's where we're going with this one.
Yep.
Okay, any action at this time for the board?
Just a vote. A vote to move forward with the application.
We move forward with the application.
On the clean water state revolving fund for 37 million. I'll second that. All in favor?
All right,
Aye, okay. Old business, water project update. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes. As Steve mentioned previously, Bernice was out, they repaved the area where they had made the initial cuts to extend the new water main and the new well line from well 3. They did a good job of that, vibratory roller, nice, I think. They removed all the fill socks. So all the linings, they left the chips behind.
Yep, I saw him, looked
Yeah,
fine.
They removed all of the actual liners. So that cleanup's going well. We got a little bit left for the electricians to do. The generator should be on site sometime, hopefully mid-July now. June 23 was the new ship date. We haven't heard anything additional since then on that. On all, we're wrapping it up, getting towards the end of it, so.
Good. Any movement on the communications issue?
Well, I believe at the last meeting, I could be wrong, we did discuss that the engineering firm opted to go with what the town recommended to them. Which
Right.
was to go with an actual
Transformer,
just
right?
to make sure that we always have power down there, and it's not dependent upon sunlight.
Right.
I mean, the issue as well with their solar panel setup that they proposed was that there was no method to clean snow off of it.
Right.
It was gonna have to be cleaned by
Hand, right?
So on a weekend, for example, we get snow on Friday. You would have to have someone out there on sets.
Pay someone overtime to go out there
Right.
and,
So,
right,
or else the well becomes not reliable. So
Right.
that would defeat the purpose of us, they bring the well back into service, didn't make sense. We want to have something that's reliable 24/7, 365. Whenever we want. So that issue seems to be resolved. We haven't, to my knowledge anyway, I haven't seen any quotes or estimates yet from start to finish on what that will cost, but it's not gonna be on us anyway.
or the timing or anything like that. So that's still to be decided.
Right. So that's
Okay.
in the works as well.
I noticed there's a porta potty out that was part of that project.
Correct. That's gonna be part of final cleanup. They're gonna remove that. Yeah.
Okay.
I believe that they're keeping it on site so long as there's anything that has to be done for work on site.
Right.
Because electricians still have a little bit to do and they have some final cleanup left. Generator installed. Once that's done, go with it.
And there's still a bunch of flags out there, and
On the trees you're talking?
not so much on the trees, but in the ground with regard to lines, various lines.
Okay.
There's also just a pile of flags lying.
Yeah, there's a big save not that long ago out there for something. I'm trying to remember what
It's not related to the project?
It shouldn't be.
Okay, yeah, as long as it's eventually cleaned up.
Yeah.
Okay. Water project, anything on the water project, guys? Good with that? Road project update and design change.
I don't have anything for it, unfortunately, all I can mention on that is, they're making progress. They've replaced a few culverts, I'm not sure if it's been down, it comes through it at all, they had a few head walls down that area. There's like a wide.
Yeah, we walked down there prior to that work and explained to us what needed to be done,
Perfect,
but I haven't been there since they've been doing some of that work.
sure, today they were down on the, Snowsburg Trail, I think that's the right or correct term for that, I should say. What they're doing is basically that where the bridge goes over Snowsburg, the trail goes up and down, it's pretty sharp.
Yeah, that's Village Trail.
Village Trail, I apologize.
Yeah.
That is being sloped out quite a bit more. It's gonna be a 10% grade as opposed to whatever it was before, it's
Right.
basically like almost straight down. So it's gonna be much easier.
This is on the town square side, because it
Yeah,
slopes on,
on
on,
the square side, that's
right.
correct. Yeah. So they're working on that. They had to replace a drainage culvert there. I think they removed an 8-inch and put in a 12-inch culvert, just because of the water that can come off that hillside. But on the design change, did we have anything on that yet?
Yeah. Mark says that we don't have anything back in writing yet, and HEB is still working on finalizing that design change.
This has to do with changing some of the work from by Village and Snows Brook and transferring it to
49.
40, well, Valley and up to Ray or up to Davos, excuse me, up to Davos. Right, so we're still waiting for the final numbers on that.
That's correct.
Anything else on the road project? Anyone to mention? Transfer station update. Who'd like to talk to that?
Really no change as of right now. We're continuing to operate kind of in both locations. We're trying to just, kind of formulate a plan for later this year in terms of moving our operations down here below and just planning this in the works.
The only thing I'd like to mention to that point is that the state did notify us that we can proceed to go out to bid.
Right, this is on the environmental impact report.
Correct.
They notified us what?
They informed us that we can go out to bid without having the environmental review in hand. That just has to be a conditional approval, if you will, so we can go out to bid.
Oh, good.
But we have to notify the bidders that.
We're still waiting on,
Correct.
it's conditional, still waiting on the environmental
Oh,
impact.
that's good though.
Yes,
Right.
that'll speed up the process a little bit. And hopefully we can move forward. with
Do that soon.
Yeah,
I could,
hopefully we might still have enough time to get that done. Within the time frame.
1 December, we have to have that up and running, up at the new location on 1 December, right? Does that tie into the removal of sludge in that area?
Yeah, I've received. Well, I've reached out to the Johnstons about removing that, and they got back to me with a quote. I think that included stumping as well, so removing the stumps off the site. I believe that was depending on how many days they're there, between 8,000 and 12,000 for everything. Which isn't terrible by any means. That's having multiple people on site with multiple pieces of equipment. I think they're anticipating 3 or 4 days to do all of it. So I gotta get back in touch with them. I haven't had a chance to speak with Mark about it too much in depth. But that, since we got that news about being able to proceed and go out to bid with that, conditional approval of the environmental review. We'll have to figure out if we want to make, what we want to do in terms of sludge removal before or after we actually have a word of bid to a bidder, so.
We had talked about around this time coming up with the plan for stickers on cars and the rules for the
We have to,
once we switch over.
yeah, we need to probably
Is the
I think we-
idea that staff's gonna do something and present it to us, or are we gonna have?
That's how
a joint meeting or?
right, we could do it either way. I mean, we could talk about it in a workshop to see how we'd like to do it and direct staff how we would like to do it. I think you were going to look at other towns and see what was out there and provide us with some,
Didn't we think Holderness was a good example?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
We reached out to Holderness, we have their operating plan that Mark and I have been taking a look at to see how they're, you know, through maybe a couple of changes, how their plan could fit our scenario. We did order some stickers, we have some stickers on hand, but again, further conversations needs to happen in terms of how we're gonna use them, who we're gonna issue them to, and what that whole process will look.
We should move that along before too long.
Now that we got approval to go out to bid, absolutely.
all right, we can schedule a workshop and discuss it in detail, see what we want.
Mhm.
Okay, if you can just relay that to Mark when he gets back, we'll move along on that. Anything else on the transfer station?
That's no word.
Wastewater project update. Anything further at this point?
I don't have anything further for you.
And okay, any questions, folks, so far on that? Last old business, well, for wildlife and the issue of the beaver dam. So Jenny, I take it you're here on behalf of the Conservation Commission. We had talked, or I had asked with select board with the select board's recommendation that the Conservation Commission look at the issue, since we clearly have beaver dam activity at well 4 and beaver activity, but not dam activity at well 3. So you've been doing some work in the matter. Yes.
Yeah, as some of you know, as you're on the email chain, I reached out to the Forest Service, their wildlife biologist, and we have a meeting set up for June 13th. At 2 p.m. to visit both sites and just talk about what's going on and what to do. And that's really all I have so far. That was my first step. And obviously I said, well, you know, Dylan's keeping his eye on it along with other people too. If things start getting a little out of control sooner than that, then we'll definitely accelerate that.
And look at the various options as to how to move forward. Although I do think did we agree at the last meeting to go forward with Dan Newton's suggestion and break the dam on well
I
4?
think you had suggested that to me
I
too.
thought there wasn't a dam constructed yet.
4 there is,
Yeah, well, or there's a significant-
not in well
Oh, okay,
3.
Okay,
And I think we'll need Forest Service approval for that, right?
That would be my understanding. I think we can't, it's in a national forest.
Right.
So I think we would have to get approval
Right.
from them first.
Yeah.
Before we.
Yes. So, I mean, are you guys okay with going forward and breaking that dam while we're deciding what the long-term solution is?
I don't know. I mean, maybe we had to wait till the 13th.
Yeah, I would think we need the Forest Service.
It's
to-
it's not-
Well, we have to get their approval.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm sorry. I didn't phrase it quite correctly.
I'd
Yes.
like to wait and talk if there's no imminent danger. I mean, I visit there 3 or 4 times a week and it seems to be kind of the same as it was. It wasn't like it was last summer where all of a sudden the entire
Right.
area was an absolute giant pond because of everything. Kind of seems to be,
So we've got 3 weeks.
I think so, unless things change dramatically between now and then.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with it. I just wanted to make sure we were moving in that direction as a more or less immediate step while we're looking for a longer term solution through your research and the various options besides just breaking the dam.
I was reading about Stowe, Vermont a couple of days ago that they have a lot of playing fields. They have great playing fields up there in public green space and the beavers are starting to flood it. And you know, the Vermont laws are pretty strict and it sounds, just reading the article, it sounds like there's nothing they can do about it. They just live with it and find other playing fields.
Massachusetts is the same way. They have a environment. I mean, you can't kill the beavers. You can't wreck anything. You have to go through this massive procedure to do anything. And towns have these huge plans about what to do with infrastructure. It's crazy.
To Jenny's point, my understanding, Massachusetts, the only exception is strictly surface water, drinking water applications.
Hmm.
The only reason for that is just because you don't want to have mammals defecating on this thing.
Yeah.
Public water supply, but that's the only exception. Beavers are otherwise protected species through and through. And they don't, you know, I don't have enough experience dealing with them to know really case by case basis and how they resolve. But it is, to both of your points, it is a sensitive subject when it comes to beaver habitats
Mhm.
as a whole, so.
Do we know for certain that that representative meeting with us on the 13th can give us the authority to break the dam if that's an option?
Well, he is bringing the acting district ranger, whose name is escaping me at the moment.
Oh, that's good.
I did see that mentioned, I think.
Lawyer,
Yeah.
maybe the last
Yeah,
name.
that
somebody
sounds
was.
right.
So I don't know if he has the authority, you know, to make that decision on the spot, or if he has to get it approved by someone above him.
Why don't we check on that before that meeting, just to see if they want to wait until then, or if there's things they need from us ahead of time. So that a decision can be made on the matter. Rather than waiting 3 weeks and then having to wait, the way the bureaucracy works, the federal bureaucracy, wait another month before there's something we can move along here. To inhibit or somehow mitigate some of their work right now. They're not rushed into having to take a drastic solution soon.
I believe that Brooke, the Forest Ranger's out on an assignment. I'm not sure what the length of that assignment is. So if she's the one that might need to approve an action like that.
I would say check with Mark. I mean, when you get a chance, when he gets back, and let's just see if we can accelerate that decision so that if it's something we can do, let's do it. So it gives us more time to make a decision on the matter. Does that sound good to you guys?
Yep.
Okay. Anything else, Jen, you'd like to say about our beavers or ducks, or what else do we have? Okay, that's enough, right?
Yeah.
Right. Any board concerns or directives at this time?
Any update on the community power, whether they're making progress?
I haven't heard lately. Maybe we can ask them, our next meeting isn't for 3 weeks. We could ask them to come in. You can ask Kim to come in and brief the select board at our next meeting if she's available. Does that work for you, Bob?
Yep. Mhm.
All right,
I saw those representatives from that community power organization at a
Thank you,
recent
Jen.
conference that I attended, Bob. And they gave a good presentation, and I asked, out of there were 18 communities that they've worked with or to date. And I just asked the question at any of their town meetings, was that article defeated? And it was an astounding no. So
Mhm.
every time that this organization or this, process has come before a town so far in the state of New Hampshire, it's always been approved. Just a point of note.
good. I'm sure Kim's on top of it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it can be relayed to her that select board would like an update at our next meeting, if she's available. If not, whenever schedule fits,
Happy.
our schedule and her schedule coincides. Great. Correspondence? Any
Mark
emails?
sent a text that said that when he's back, he'll put together some of the information we have for the rec department and get it to
Right.
Amy and
Mike,
Mike and offer to meet with them.
sure,
So
sure, that may answer a lot of their questions. Again, it was a very long meeting, and I think people didn't want to sit for a presentation of the rec department. That when we hit 11 o'clock or 11:30, I think that's about when that was the next item. Because I remember asking, okay, do we want to do the rec department briefing now? And it was a resounding no.
Yeah.
I recall. Okay, no other correspondence. Do we have a non-public? I see it here on the schedule, but is there one?
I think we can move to the next meeting, if that's okay.
okay.
It's up to, okay, fine. If nobody else has anything, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second it. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patty.